Dramatic montage of news headlines, police tape, mugshots. Picture this. You're standing in one of the world's most exclusive jewelry stores. Security cameras track your every move. Armed guards watch from the corners. And in your pocket, you have a plan so audacious, so unbelievably reckless, that it defies all logic. What do you do? If you're Levi Rubin, a 36-year-old man from California, you swallow the evidence. All $770,000 worth of it. Welcome to 2025, a year that's barely begun, but has already given us some of the most bizarre, shocking, and downright unbelievable crimes in modern history. I'm your host, and over the next hour, we're going to dive deep into 4 extraordinary cases that prove truth really is stranger than fiction. These aren't your typical crime stories. These are tales of greed gone wrong, plans that backfired spectacularly, and criminals who made mistakes so obvious, you'll wonder how they ever thought they'd get away with it. We'll meet a man who swallowed diamonds worth more than most people's homes, a burglar who couldn't resist live streaming their own crime, a fraudster whose fake death was undermined by social media, and a bank robber who forgot the most crucial part of any heist: the escape plan. But these stories aren't just about crime. They're about human psychology, desperation, and the increasingly bizarre ways people try to game the system in our hyper-connected world. So buckle up, turn off your phone, because the stories you are about to hear will make you question everything you thought you knew about criminal behavior. Let's begin. Los Angeles, California, January 8, 2025. The morning started like any other at prestigious Gems, one of Beverly Hills' most exclusive jewelry boutiques. The kind of place where appointments are required, where security is tighter than most banks, and where a single piece can cost more than a luxury car. Levi Rubin walked through those doors at 10:47 a.m. He was well-dressed, polite. He had an appointment. Nothing about him suggested what was about to unfold would become international news within 24 hours. Rubin told the sales associate he was shopping for an engagement ring. A classic story. The associate, let's call her Maria, showed him to a private viewing room, standard procedure for high-value clients. She brought out a selection of loose diamonds, exquisite stones, investment-grade quality, each one meticulously certified, laser-inscribed, tracked in multiple databases. The smallest stone was worth $85,000. The largest? $340,000. For the next 20 minutes, Rubin played the part perfectly. He examined the stones, asked questions about cut, clarity, color. He used a jeweler's loupe, just like a serious buyer would. Maria later told police she had no reason to suspect anything was wrong, until Rubin asked for a glass of water. Now, here's where it gets bizarre. Security footage, which we'll get to in a moment, shows what happened next. As Maria turned to get the water, Rubin's hand moved with practiced speed. 1 diamond, 2, 3, 4, 5 stones total, swept into his palm. And then he did something that still baffles investigators. He swallowed them, all of them. 5 diamonds. Combined weight, approximately 47 carats. Combined value, $770,000. Gone. Down his throat, into his stomach. Now, you might be thinking, why? What kind of exit strategy involves swallowing evidence? How does one fence diamonds that have passed through the human digestive system? Hold that thought, because it gets stranger. Maria returned with the water. The diamonds were gone, but Rubin remained calm. He told her he needed time to think, thanked her for her patience, and stood to leave. But Maria wasn't fooled. She'd counted the stones before the viewing standard procedure, and she counted them after. 5 were missing. She immediately triggered the silent alarm. Within 90 seconds, the store's security had locked down the exits. Within 4 minutes, LAPD arrived, and Levi Rubin found himself in a situation that even the most experienced criminals would find nightmarish. Police searched him, patted him down, checked his pockets, his shoes, his clothing. Nothing. They brought in metal detectors. Nothing. They scanned the viewing room. Nothing. For a brief moment, there was confusion. Had Maria miscounted? Were the diamonds somewhere in the room? Then one of the officers, a veteran detective named Sarah Chen, had a realization. Where else could they be? She asked. The answer was as obvious as it was revolting. Reuben was taken to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center under police custody. An X-ray confirmed what everyone now suspected: 5 distinct radio-opaque objects in his gastrointestinal tract. The diamonds were inside him. Now, here's where the story takes on an almost tragicomic dimension. You see, Reuben had a plan. It wasn't a good plan, but it was a plan nonetheless. According to his later testimony, he genuinely believed that if the diamonds were inside his body, they couldn't be considered stolen. Some bizarre interpretation of property law he'd cobbled together from internet forums and crime movies. He thought he'd be released, would pass the diamonds naturally over the next few days, and would then have $770,000 worth of untraceable stones. There were just a few problems with this plan. First, the law. Prosecutors later confirmed that theft occurs at the moment of an authorized taking, regardless of where you hide the stolen items. Your stomach isn't a legal safe haven. Second, the diamonds were traceable. Each stone had laser inscriptions, certification numbers, and was registered in international databases. They were about as untraceable as a neon sign. Third, the medical complications. Dr. Michael Reynolds, the gastroenterologist assigned to Reuben's case, later gave an interview describing the situation as medically unprecedented and frankly dangerous. Diamonds, while chemically inert, have extremely sharp edges. As they move through the digestive system, they can cause lacerations, perforations, and internal bleeding. Reuben was facing a choice: surgery to remove the diamonds immediately, or waiting for them to pass naturally while risking serious injury. He chose surgery. The operation took 3 hours. All 5 diamonds were successfully removed and returned to Prestigious Gems. Reuben was charged with grand theft, and his bail was set at $500, appropriately less than the value of what he'd tried to steal. But the story doesn't end there. As detectives dug into Reuben's background, a pattern emerged. This wasn't his first attempt at an unusual theft. Court records revealed 2 prior arrests, one for attempting to steal rare coins by hiding them in a prosthetic leg cast he was medically required to wear, and another for trying to smuggle art from a gallery in a hollowed-out walking cane. Reuben, it seemed, was obsessed with elaborate heist schemes but lacked the competence to pull any of them off. Dr. Jennifer Howard, a forensic psychologist who evaluated Reuben, described him as exhibiting signs of criminal grandiosity, a belief that he was smarter than law enforcement, combined with poor impulse control and an inability to accurately assess risk. He watches movies where criminals pull off impossible heists, Dr. Howard explained, and he genuinely believes he can replicate them in real life. But movies skip over the details that matter: the planning, the expertise, the fact that most criminals get caught. Reuben's trial is scheduled for April 2025. He faces up to 6 years in prison. The diamonds, meanwhile, have been returned to Prestigious Gems, though the story's owner told reporters they'll likely need to be recertified before they can be sold, given their unusual provenance. As for Reuben, his attorney entered a plea of not guilty, arguing diminished capacity due to what they termed obsessive heist fantasies. The prosecution wasn't sympathetic. But perhaps the most bizarre coda to this story came from Reuben himself. In a jailhouse interview with a local news station, he was asked if he had any regrets. His answer: "I should have swallowed smaller diamonds. Easier to pass." And with that stunning lack of self-awareness, we move to our second case, a crime that proves the internet age has created entirely new ways to incriminate yourself. Phoenix, Arizona, January 15, 2025. At 2:34 a.m., a home security system in the upscale neighborhood of Paradise Valley detected movement. The homeowners, Michael and Patricia Brennan, were vacationing in Maui. Their house was empty, or it should have been. Someone had just broken in through a rear window. The alarm system immediately sent alerts to the Brennans' phones and to the local police department. Officers were dispatched. Standard procedure. But this was no standard burglary, because at the exact same moment the alarm triggered, a notification popped up on the phones of 3,247 people across the country. The burglar was live streaming the entire crime. Meet Tyler Jennings, a 24-year-old aspiring influencer with a history of increasingly desperate attempts to gain social media followers. Prior to this incident, his most viewed video had garnered 847 views. It was a compilation of him eating increasingly spicy hot wings. Tyler wanted to go viral. He wanted fame, followers, sponsorships. He wanted to be someone. And in a moment of catastrophically poor judgment, he decided the way to achieve this was to live stream himself committing felonies. The stream started with Tyler adjusting his phone camera, mounted to a chest harness he'd bought specifically for this purpose. "What's up, everyone?" he whispered loudly. "Tonight is going to be insane. We're about to do something that's never been done before on YouTube. Make sure to like and subscribe. Except you can't subscribe on TikTok. It's follow." He couldn't even get the platform terminology right. The chat exploded with comments. "Is this real? Bro, you're gonna get arrested. This is fake, right? Someone call the police." Multiple viewers did exactly that. While Tyler was rummaging through the Brennans' master bedroom, commenting on their pretty nice setup and showing his viewers jewelry that he estimated was probably worth like $1,000, later appraised at 47,911 dispatchers in Phoenix were receiving call after call. A viewer in Maine called, another in Texas, 3 more in California, 1 in Germany, all reporting the same thing. Someone was live streaming a burglary. And here's the location visible in the background of the video. What Tyler didn't realize, among the many things Tyler didn't realize, was that the Brennan home had multiple identifying features clearly visible in his stream. A custom-made stained glass window, a distinctive fireplace mantel, artwork that Patricia Brennan had previously posted about on her own Instagram account. Armchair detectives in the chat were cross-referencing his video with social media posts. Within 8 minutes, they'd identified the house. Within 12 minutes, they'd provided the address to police. Tyler continued streaming, blissfully unaware. "Okay, guys, I found a safe," he announced triumphantly. "This is where the good stuff is. Let me see if I can." Does anyone know how to crack a safe? The chat was now in chaos. "Police are coming, run bro run, you're so busted, this is the dumbest criminal ever." Tyler read a few comments and laughed. "You guys think this is real? Nah, this is just a prank. This is my uncle's house. We're making content." It was not his uncle's house. Tyler did not have an uncle in Paradise Valley. At 2:51 am, 17 minutes into the stream, Phoenix PD arrived on scene. 4 officers surrounded the house. Tyler was still inside, now in the kitchen, eating what he described as some bougie cheese from the Brennan's refrigerator. Then came the announcement that would define Tyler's life. "Loudspeaker police, this is the Phoenix Police Department. You are in a home illegally. Exit through the front door with your hands visible. You are being recorded." Tyler's face, clearly visible to his 4,100 viewers, the number had grown as clips of the stream circulated on other platforms, went completely white. "Oh no," he whispered. "Oh no, oh no, oh no." And then, in perhaps the most bizarrely incriminating moment in modern criminal history, he looked directly into the camera and said, "Guys, I think I'm actually about to get arrested. This is not part of the prank. This is real. Make sure you follow me, because I'm gonna vlog my court case. This content is going to be insane." Tyler Jennings was arrested at 2:53 am. The stream ended at 2:54 am when officers confiscated his phone. Total runtime, 20 minutes. Total views by the end of that night, over 2.7 million across multiple platforms. Tyler got his wish. He went viral. But viral fame doesn't pay for legal defense. The evidence against Tyler was overwhelming. The live stream had been automatically saved to TikTok's servers. Thousands of people had screen recorded it. Every second of the burglary was documented from multiple angles, with Tyler's own commentary providing clear intent. His attorney, a public defender named Marcus Webb, later described it as the most well-documented crime I've ever had to defend. Tyler was charged with burglary, theft, criminal trespass, and here's a new one, illegal surveillance, because he'd recorded the interior of someone's home without permission. The prosecution's case was devastating. They didn't need to build a timeline or establish Tyler's presence at the scene. He'd done all that for them. In court, they simply played the stream, all 20 minutes of it. The judge watched in what witnesses described as stunned silence, But the psychological dimension of this case is what makes it truly bizarre. Dr. Robert Yang, a specialist in social media addiction and digital behavior, analyzed Tyler's case for a documentary being produced about internet-era crime. What we're seeing, Dr. Yang explained, is a generation that's been conditioned to document everything. To these individuals, an experience doesn't feel real unless it's been validated by an audience. Tyler couldn't just commit a burglary, he needed witnesses, likes, comments. The crime itself was almost secondary to the content it would create. He continued, "This is the logical endpoint of a culture that rewards attention above all else." Tyler wasn't thinking about consequences because he was too focused on engagement metrics. The dopamine hit from seeing viewer numbers climb was stronger than any fear of arrest. Tyler's case sparked a broader conversation about social media and crime. Law enforcement agencies across the country have noted an uptick in criminals documenting their own offenses. Bank robberies posted on Instagram stories, assaults filmed for YouTube, drug transactions coordinated in public Discord servers. The paradox of the digital age: the same tools that connect us make us phenomenally easy to catch when we break the law. Tyler Jennings pleaded guilty to all charges in exchange for a reduced sentence. He received 4 years in prison and was ordered to pay $89,000 in restitution to the Brennan family, covering not just the stolen items, which were recovered, but also the cost of home security upgrades and trauma counseling. His TikTok account was permanently banned. His Twitter account, where he'd tried to monetize his notoriety, was suspended. His Instagram went dark. Before sentencing, Tyler was given an opportunity to address the court. "I just want to say I'm sorry," he read from a prepared statement. "I made a mistake. I got caught up in wanting to be famous, and I lost sight of what's right and wrong. I hope people can learn from my mistakes." Then, as he was being led away, someone in the gallery caught him on camera saying to his attorney, "Do you think Netflix would want to make a documentary about this?" Some people never learn. But Tyler's crimes, while spectacularly stupid, pale in comparison to our next case: a man who tried to fake his own death and was undone by the very platform that once promised him anonymity. Imagine you're drowning in debt, creditors calling daily, your business has failed, you're facing bankruptcy, possibly prison for financial crimes. Your life, as you know it, is over. What do you do? If you're Marcus Holloway, a 42-year-old former investment advisor from Miami, you fake your own death and flee to Central America with $3.2 million of your clients' money. On December 28, 2024, a fishing boat off the coast of Key West reported finding an empty kayak. The kayak belonged to Marcus Holloway, according to the registration sticker. Personal effects were found inside: a wallet, keys, a phone, and a waterproof case. But no Marcus. The Coast Guard launched a search. Helicopters scoured the area. Dive teams investigated. For 3 days, the search continued. Marcus's wife, Jennifer, appeared on local news, tearfully pleading for anyone with information to come forward. "Marcus was everything to me," she sobbed. "He was going through a difficult time with work, but he wouldn't." The authorities suspended the search on December 31st. Marcus Holloway was presumed dead, lost at sea. A memorial service was scheduled for January 10th. It was a tragedy. A successful businessman, apparently overwhelmed by stress, had taken his kayak out for what was supposed to be a peaceful paddle and never returned. Except none of it was true. Marcus Holloway wasn't dead. He was very much alive, sitting on a beach in Nicaragua, drinking a cocktail, and making one catastrophically stupid mistake after another. You see, Marcus had planned this for months. He'd created fake business losses to explain why client funds were gone. He'd purchased the kayak specifically for the staged disappearance. He'd even paid a friend $10,000 to leave it in the right location at the right time. The plan was elegant. Fake your death, collect a $2 million life insurance policy which Jennifer would split with him once the heat died down, and live comfortably in a country with no extradition treaty. But Marcus forgot one crucial detail in the age of social media: staying dead requires actually staying hidden. On January 5, 2025, 6 days after his death, someone posted in an expat Facebook group for Americans living in Nicaragua. The post included a photo from a beach resort's New Year's celebration. The photo showed maybe 30 people, smiling faces, fireworks in the background, tropical drinks, and there in the back left corner, partially obscured but definitely visible, was Marcus Holloway. The person who spotted him was Dana Richards, a former client of Marcus's who'd lost $175,000 when his investment fund collapsed. She'd been following the news of his disappearance. When she saw that photo, she did what any of us would do. She looked closer, zoomed in, enhanced the image on her computer. Those were Marcus's distinctive tattoos. That was his face. That was the man who'd supposedly drowned 6 days earlier. Dana immediately contacted the FBI. I know this sounds crazy, she told the agent, but the man who supposedly drowned last week, he's alive. He's in Nicaragua, and I have proof. The FBI assigned Special Agent Victoria Torres to the case. Agent Torres had worked financial crimes for 15 years. She'd seen fraud schemes of every variety, but she'd never seen someone fake their death and then appear in a public Facebook photo less than a week later. The investigation moved quickly. The FBI traced the origin of the photograph to Casa del Mar Resort in San Juan del Sur, Nicaragua. They contacted Nicaraguan authorities. They verified that Marcus had entered the country on December 29, one day after his supposed death using a fraudulent passport under the name David Morrison. But here's where the story gets truly bizarre. Marcus hadn't just appeared in one photo. As investigators dug deeper, they found he'd appeared in multiple social media posts from multiple people. A tourist's Instagram story showed him at a beach bar. A travel blogger's YouTube vlog captured him walking past in the background. A review of the resort on TripAdvisor included a photo where Marcus was visible near the pool. Marcus Holloway had become an accidental influencer, famous not for his own content, but for appearing in everyone else's. It's the paradox of the modern age, Agent Torres later explained in a press briefing. You can run anywhere in the world, but you can't hide from cameras. Everyone is documenting everything. Privacy doesn't exist anymore, even for people desperately trying to stay hidden. On January 12th, working with Nicaraguan authorities, the FBI arrested Marcus Holloway at his rented beach house. He was extradited to the United States 3 days later. The charges were extensive: wire fraud, insurance fraud, faking his own death, identity theft, money laundering. Combined, he was facing up to 40 years in federal prison. In his initial interrogation, portions of which were later released to the media, Marcus seemed genuinely baffled by his own capture. "How did you find me?" he asked. "Facebook," Agent Torres replied. There was a long silence. "Facebook?" Marcus repeated. "Like, someone tagged me?" "No, Mr. Holloway. You were just in the background of someone's vacation photo, and that someone happened to be one of your former clients." Marcus put his head in his hands. "What are the odds?" he muttered. Agent Torres didn't answer, but later she told reporters, "In the age of social media, the odds are extremely high. Everyone has a camera. Everyone posts online. The idea that you can disappear into a crowd doesn't work anymore when every crowd is being photographed and posted to the internet." The trial revealed the full scope of Marcus's scheme. He'd been embezzling from clients for over 3 years, using new investments to pay returns to earlier investors, a classic Ponzi structure. When the scheme began to collapse, he'd panicked. The fake death was his escape plan, but it was hastily conceived and poorly executed. Forensic accountants testified that Marcus had stolen approximately $3.2 million from 47 different clients. The money had been transferred through a series of shell companies before ultimately being moved to offshore accounts Marcus controlled. Only $1.8 million was recovered. The rest had been spent on his new life: the fake passport, travel expenses, renting the beach house, and ironically, paying cash for everything to avoid creating a digital trail, which meant he had no way to prove where the money went. Jennifer Holloway, his wife, was also arrested and charged as an accomplice. Text messages recovered from her phone showed she'd known about the plan. She'd been the one who reported Marcus missing. She'd given the tearful interview to local news. All of it was theater, but the most damning evidence came from Marcus himself. Investigators found a journal on his laptop encrypted, but not well enough where he documented his entire plan. In an entry dated December 15th, he'd written, "The key to disappearing is becoming nobody. Blend in. Don't draw attention. Keep your head down and wait." On January 1st, after his death, he'd written, "Feeling confident. No way they'll find me here. Time to relax and enjoy life." On January 4th, went to a resort party last night. Needed to get out of the house. Felt good to be around people again. There was no entry for January 5th, the day the Facebook photo was posted. But there was an entry for January 11th, the day before his arrest. Something feels wrong. Keep seeing people with cameras everywhere. Paranoid. But I'm probably just anxious. There's no way they could track me down here. Marcus Holloway pleaded guilty to all charges in exchange for a reduced sentence of 25 years. Jennifer Holloway received 15 years for her role in the scheme. The 47 victims of Marcus's fraud received partial restitution from the recovered funds, but most lost their life savings. Dr. Patricia Chen, a criminologist specializing in white-collar crime, analyzed the case for this video. "What's fascinating about Holloway's case," she explained, "is how it illustrates the collision between old-school fraud and new-world surveillance. A generation ago, faking your death and fleeing to another country might have worked. But today, with facial recognition, social media, ubiquitous cameras, and global connectivity, it's nearly impossible to truly disappear." She continued, "Holloway's fundamental mistake wasn't just appearing in public, it was believing he could exist in the modern world without leaving a digital footprint. Every transaction, every interaction, every moment in a public space creates data, and data eventually gets you caught." Marcus Holloway is currently serving his sentence at FCI Coleman in Florida. He'll be eligible for parole in 2042 at age 60. The beach house in Nicaragua has been sold, the proceeds going to his victims. And somewhere on the internet, that New Year's Eve photo still exists, a permanent record of the moment a man's carefully planned disappearance began to unravel. But if you think Marcus's plan was poorly thought out, wait until you hear about our final case. A bank robber who had everything planned perfectly, except for how to actually leave the scene of the crime. Chicago, Illinois, January 17, 2025. The First National Bank of Lincoln Park opens at 9 a.m. every weekday. It's a small branch, primarily serving local businesses and residents. Quiet, orderly, secure. At 9:47 a.m., a man entered wearing a ski mask, dark sunglasses, and gloves. He was carrying a gun. Meet Raymond Chan, a 51-year-old unemployed construction worker with no prior criminal record. Raymond was desperate. He'd been out of work for 18 months. His unemployment had run out. He was 3 months behind on rent. His car had been repossessed. Raymond needed money, and he'd decided, perhaps after watching too many heist movies, that robbing a bank was the solution. "Everyone get down," Raymond shouted, brandishing what would later be determined to be a realistic-looking BB gun. "This is a robbery." 12 people dropped to the floor, 9 customers, 3 bank employees. Raymond approached a counter and shoved a duffel bag at the teller, a woman named Susan Martinez, who had worked at the bank for 6 years and had been through robbery training multiple times. "Fill it, now. Don't try anything smart," Raymond demanded. Susan, following protocol, began filling the bag with bills from her drawer. No marked bills, those are mostly a Hollywood invention, but standard denomination notes. 20s, 50s, hundreds. The silent alarm had already been triggered. Police were en route. Raymond had approximately 4 minutes before the first units arrived. Susan worked quickly but deliberately. She knew the longer she took, the better the chances that police would arrive. But she also knew not to antagonize an armed robber, even one who seemed nervous and uncertain. Raymond's hands were shaking. Sweat dripped from beneath his ski mask despite the bank's air conditioning. "Hurry up," he said. "Come on, hurry." Susan zipped the duffel bag and pushed it across the counter. "Here, please. Just take it and go." The bag contained approximately $47,000. Raymond grabbed it, swung it over his shoulder, and turned toward the door. This is the moment where any professional criminal or even an amateur who had done basic planning would have their escape route ready. A getaway car. A bicycle, a scooter, something, anything. Raymond had nothing. He walked out of the bank, duffel bag in hand, and stopped on the sidewalk. He looked left, then right, then left again. He was, according to multiple witnesses who saw the security footage, clearly trying to figure out what to do next. Because Raymond Chen, in all his meticulous planning of the robbery itself, the disguise, the weapon, the script of what to say, had completely forgotten to arrange a way to leave. For a moment, Raymond just stood there. Customers inside the bank, still on the floor, watched through the window in confusion. Then Raymond did something that would be hilarious if it weren't so tragic. He pulled out his phone and opened a rideshare app. He was trying to order an Uber. Susan Martinez, still behind the counter, later described the scene. "We're all lying on the floor, terrified, and through the window we can see this guy just standing there, looking at his phone." Someone whispered, "Is he texting?" It was surreal. Raymond stood on that sidewalk for approximately 90 seconds, phone in one hand, duffel bag full of stolen money in the other, waiting for the app to find him a driver. The app couldn't find anyone immediately available. Raymond, growing more panicked, started walking. Not running, walking quickly, but not running, as if some part of his brain still believed he could blend in with a normal crowd despite the ski mask and the duffel bag. He made it approximately 2 blocks before the first police cruiser arrived. Officer David Park later described the arrest in his report. Suspect was observed walking eastbound on Lincoln Avenue carrying a black duffel bag and wearing a ski mask and dark clothing. When ordered to stop, suspect immediately dropped the bag and lay on the ground. No resistance was offered. Suspect appeared confused and kept asking if he could call his lawyer. The entire robbery, from entry to arrest, had lasted approximately 8 minutes. Raymond Chen had successfully robbed a bank. In his interrogation, Raymond was cooperative to the point of being chatty. He waived his right to an attorney, a decision his later court-appointed lawyer would describe as catastrophically unwise, and proceeded to explain his entire thought process. "Detective, Mr. Chen, why didn't you have a car waiting?" Raymond, "I don't have a car. It got repossessed." Detective, "Okay. Why didn't you take public transportation?" Raymond, "I didn't think about it. I was focused on the robbery part." Detective, "You planned the robbery but not the escape." Raymond, long pause. "I guess I thought once I had the money, the hard part would be over. I figured I'd just figure it out." There was a long silence in that interrogation room while the detectives processed what they'd just heard. Raymond continued, "I watched a lot of videos on YouTube about bank robberies. All the advice was about how to get the money without getting shot or triggering alarms. None of them really talked about what to do after. This case became a teaching moment at the FBI's training academy. Not because of Raymond's technique, which was amateur at best, but because it illustrated a fundamental truth about criminal behavior. Most crimes fail not because of sophisticated police work, but because of basic planning failures. Special Agent Michael Torres, who lectures on bank robbery investigations, uses Raymond's case as a cautionary tale. The vast majority of bank robberies are solved within 48 hours, he explains to his classes, not because we are using cutting-edge technology or brilliant detective work, though we do use those things, but because most bank robbers are deeply, profoundly stupid. He continues, they forget the escape plan, like Chen, or they rob a bank 3 blocks from their home, or they use their own car and leave the license plate visible, or they post about it on social media. The number one factor in solving bank robberies is criminal incompetence. Raymond Chen's case went to trial in March 2025. His defense attorney attempted to argue diminished capacity due to stress and depression, but the prosecution's case was overwhelming. They had security footage showing the entire robbery, the $47,000 in cash recovered intact, Raymond's full confession testimony from 12 witnesses, phone records showing his attempt to order a ride share during his escape, GPS data showing his exact walking route from the bank to his arrest location. The jury deliberated for 47 minutes, almost exactly as long as the robbery itself had taken. Raymond was convicted on all counts: armed robbery, weapons violations, and attempted theft. He was sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. In his sentencing statement, the judge, Honorable Patricia Williams, made a comment that summarized the bizarre nature of the case. "Mr. Chen, you have committed a serious crime. But I must note that in 30 years on the bench, I have never seen a defendant who planned so meticulously to commit a crime and yet failed so spectacularly to plan their escape. This is a cautionary tale, not just about the consequences of crime, but about the importance of thinking through all aspects of one's actions." Raymond Chen is currently serving his sentence at FCI Terre Haute in Indiana. In a strange postscript to his case, he's apparently become something of a prison celebrity, with other inmates seeking his advice on what not to do when committing crimes. According to a guard who spoke anonymously to a journalist, Raymond runs an informal lessons learned session in the prison library where he discusses his failures as a teaching opportunity. "He's actually quite intelligent," the guard said. "He just had a massive blind spot when it came to planning his escape. Now he helps other guys think through the consequences of their actions. It's kind of redemptive, in a weird way." But perhaps the most poignant moment came during a prison interview Raymond gave to a criminal justice podcast in late 2025. When asked if he regretted the robbery, Raymond's answer was surprisingly thoughtful. "Of course I regret it. I hurt people. I scared people. I threw my life away for $47,000 I never even got to spend. But more than that, I regret how stupid I was. Not just morally stupid, though it was that too, but practically stupid. I planned half a crime and then just hoped the universe would handle the rest. That's not how anything works. Not crime. Not life. Not anything. If I could go back," he continued, "I wouldn't rob the bank. But if some other version of me was going to rob the bank anyway, I'd at least tell him, dude, have a getaway plan. That's like Crime 101. 4 crimes, 4 criminals, 4 catastrophic failures of planning, judgment, and basic common sense." Levi Rubin, who swallowed $770,000 in diamonds and learned that your stomach isn't a legal safe zone. Tyler Jennings, who live-streamed his own burglary and discovered that viral fame isn't worth a prison sentence. Marcus Holloway, who faked his own death but couldn't resist appearing in everyone else's vacation photos. And Raymond Chen, who successfully robbed a bank but forgot to plan how to leave the neighborhood. These stories might seem like outliers, bizarre aberrations in the otherwise rational world of crime and punishment, but they're actually deeply revealing about human nature in the digital age. We live in a world of unprecedented surveillance and connectivity. Every action leaves a digital footprint. Every public space has cameras. Every bystander has a phone capable of recording, posting, and sharing to millions of people instantly. And yet, criminals continue to act as if they're operating in a pre-digital world. They believe they can steal and hide the evidence inside their body. They think they can broadcast their crimes and somehow avoid consequences. They imagine they can disappear into anonymity in an age where anonymity barely exists. These cases tell us something important. The human brain hasn't evolved as fast as our technology. We're still making decisions based on instincts developed in a world without facial recognition, without social media, without ubiquitous surveillance. The gap between our Stone Age brains and our Space Age world is where these bizarre crimes happen. So what can we learn from the most bizarre crimes of 2025? First, if you're planning something illegal, remember that everywhere you go, everything you do, every space you occupy is likely being recorded by someone somewhere. Second, the internet is forever. That TikTok stream, that Facebook photo, that GPS data from your ride-share app, they don't disappear. They become evidence. Third, if you're going to commit a crime, which, to be clear, you absolutely should not, at least have a complete plan. Don't swallow evidence. Don't live stream yourself. Don't pose in vacation photos. And for the love of everything, have a getaway vehicle. But really, the ultimate lesson is simpler. Don't commit crimes. Because in 2025, the world is watching, recording, and sharing everything. And the gap between committing a crime and getting caught has never been smaller. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the most bizarre crimes of 2025, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments. What other strange crime stories would you like us to cover? Stay curious, stay legal, and remember, in the digital age, there's no such thing as the perfect crime. All individuals mentioned in this video have been convicted of their crimes or have pending trials. Information presented is based on public court records, police reports, and media coverage. Sources: FBI public records, court documents, news reports from verified outlets. If you or someone you know is struggling financially or emotionally, please seek help through legitimate resources. Crime is never the answer.